Hello friends, Tanya here, and I am going to play with the Spellbinders March 2024 release, Let's Celebrate. This collection is from Yana Smakula, and it is gorgeous. I got the entire collection, and I was so excited to start playing. These are two of the cards that I created first. I haven't played with the rest of it yet, but let me tell you, this was one couple-hour session of just pure joy. I have a piece of 5x7 watercolor paper here, and I'm using the Sakura watercolor palette, and I'm laying down a rainbow of colors. You can see I have my color swatches off to the side to use as a reference, and I'm just going down the page creating a beautiful blend of watercolors. You could do this with your ink pads and ink blending. I would recommend that you do it on watercolor paper just because it has the impressionable ability, because we're going to use this with one of the BetterPress plates. You could use whatever watercoloring medium you would like, markers, ink pads, watercolors, all kinds of varieties. I will say that the Sakura Koi watercolor palette is very easy to work with, and the swatches really help determine what color you are going to be picking up when you pick up a color off the palette, because the blocks of color in the palette don't actually reflect very accurately what color they are on the paper. I also do make sure that I do my swatches on the watercolor papers that I'm going to be using, because it does make a difference. I'm just going to heat set this panel, and I won't make you watch the whole thing. And then we're going to pull out the Peony background BetterPress plate. This is actually designed to be just a little bigger than an A2 size piece of cardstock, but I turned it on its side, and I'm going to use it for a 5x7 card, because you know that's what I'm going to do. I have some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink here, and you can absolutely use the BetterPress ink. I just like the bigger ink pad and the fact that this is water soluble, so it cleans off my plate better. So I've inked up the first half, and you can see that I've overlapped the center line on the platform here. And that is because I did some test runs and found that there was a gap if you did line that up with the center line on the platform. And there you can see my completed background. It was absolutely breathtaking when I pulled that off and saw how crisp and gorgeous this BetterPress background is. I love this easy way to create a colored field of peonies, and the black is just so stunning with the rainbow. Next, we're going to take the Let's Celebrate sentiments. These are BetterPress plates also, and as you know, you can glimmer foil all of your letterpress plates. So I've taken the 4 large sentiments from this sentiment set, and I'm using some glossy black cardstock. This is a very easy way to get perfect foiling every time. And I don't know about you, but black cardstock isn't always as dark as I would like it to be. So this was just a wonderful way to get that intense blackness. There are coordinating dies for these 4 large sentiments in this sentiment collection. And since I chose to foil all 4 of them, because I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use, I'm going to die cut them all and do a little auditioning. You can see on the side here that I have 2 or 3 more sheets of foiled sentiments. I like to do that when I'm doing my foiling. Look at that. They just turned out so stunning. That's polished brass on black. Anyway, I like to do a few of the sentiments when I'm doing my foiling, because that just saves me time later when I want to use those sentiments. We're also going to take the Peony Celebration dies. This is 2 dies. There's an outline die and this gorgeous detailed die. Now I die cut this in some green cardstock, and then to pick it up off of my cutting plate, I used a piece of press and seal on the right side of the die cut and picked up all of the pieces at once. Now I still have it on the press and seal here. I don't want to separate these pieces. I'm not going to do any paper piercing with this, or paper piecing. And I'm adhering some scrap cardstock to the backs of these, so the little pieces will stay intact, and it gives me a little bit of extra dimension, of course, on my card front. Now that I have that adhered to the card front, I'm just going to peel off the press and seal, and we have some little loose ends to tack down for the leaves and buds. Now I didn't tack all of these down, and yes, this does make them direct to the background, but I think it turned out beautiful regardless. I've chosen to use the Let's Celebrate sentiment here, and I did take a piece of extra black cardstock and die cut that with the coordinating die, and I'm layering these up together because of course I want my sentiment to really stand out on this background. I did try to put the sentiment on to this gorgeous background that I didn't really want to cover, but it just kind of faded into the background. There was too much going on. Therefore, I needed some kind of backdrop to really highlight that. And I really like how the green peony silhouette looks on that background. Next, I took one of the sub sentiments from the die set, from that sentiment set, foiled it with the same foil, and die cut it with one of the precision layering mini slimline dies. That is a retired die set, so if you have it in your collection, feel free to use it. Of course, I mean, we want to use what's in our stash. Now, this is probably the riskiest thing I did in this entire video. I am doing some very dry watercoloring on the inside of this card base. This is not watercolor paper. It's not really designed to watercolor on, which is why I'm using just a little bit of water on my brush. But I wanted to use the same colors as I used on the front of the card for continuity. Now I'm heat setting this, and you're going to see that this warps quite a bit. I'm hoping that it will flatten a little more as time goes by, but I think it was still worth it. In the future, I might have done, and this is what I traditionally do, I do that kind of watercoloring on a separate piece of cardstock, and I probably would use watercolor cardstock. Or I could have used a watercolor cardstock card base, and that would have been a much better way to do it. I adhered that sentiment on the inside, and then we're going to use some peach opalescent sequins. There is a lot going on already on this card front, but I just wanted some little extra sparkle and pizzazz and something to help make your eyes follow across the card. So I'm just using my Barely Art Precision Glue here and my pickup stick. You can use the Crystal Katana, which is available in the Spellbinders shop also, or whatever you happen to have in your stash. That completes my first card. Oh, and it's a stunner, I think. I love anything rainbow. And before I move on to my second card, here are a couple more of the playing pieces that I created. Again, 5x7 pieces of cardstock. I am using the Tiger ink here, and I am again doing a 5x7 piece of watercolor cardstock with this. This is the BetterPress ink that came out last month. There were 2 new sets of colors, and I really think Tiger is a good name for this. It's a beautiful peachy orange, and that turned out just stunning. And as you can see, I got my lineup pretty good here. Now I'm using tawny brown on craft cardstock. This is actually Nina Desert Storm 80 pound. No, wait, this is 100 pound. I did want to try to just do impressions on it, and this is not quite thick enough of a paper. So here we go on to card number 2. I decided I wanted to do some ombre inking. I'm using some Distress Oxide inks. So you'll have seen me use the VersaFine Clair and the BetterPress, and now Distress Oxides on this BetterPress plate. I haven't foiled with this plate yet, and I can guarantee you it will be happening. This is such a gorgeous background plate, and I do love that I am able to use this to create a 5x7 background. These edges do not line up perfectly. I am not worried about it. I am making sure that my platform here is nice and clean before I run it through, because I wouldn't want any of that ink to get on the part that hasn't been pressed yet. And look at that, just stunning. I am overlapping these colors, and here you can see me pushing down a little bit. I will confess, this is actually the first thing I did with this plate, but for continuity in this video, because I did parts, I think I did this part first, and then I went to the rainbow one, and somewhere in between I played with those other colors. Lots of experimentation going on. And in order to make this a more seamless and understandable video, I of course changed the order in which I did things. So you can see I have a little gap in my impressions here. I think it's just fine. It looks intentional. We're just going to go with it. I adhered that after I added some extra cardstock behind the back. And since I had used a 5x7 piece of cardstock to do my better pressing, when I went and die cut this with a die that makes the finished product 4.5 by 6.5, I had this little bit of extra that I happened to center just perfectly. And I trimmed it down a little bit and used that for the inside of the card. We're going to use the Peony Celebration again, and this time I'm cutting out, I did this 3 times because my design process changed several times, and now I have 2 extra pieces. We're only going to use one of these. So I die cut it from watercolor paper, and I only did 1 pass, and for this die I find it best for my machine to run it twice, forward and backward, in order to get all of the pieces to separate. And I've done that with these green pieces here, and we'll be using one of those later. I'm also using the Sakura Koi watercolors again. I am going to watercolor the flower parts of this, and I'm using my swatch here to decide what colors again to use. So each petal is getting a little bit of color, and I am going to come back and use some fresh clean clear water to move that watercolor paint around to create a gradient look on each of these petals. Now this can be, I think did it take me even 10 minutes? Probably not, probably 5 or 6 minutes to watercolor this entire flower. And I've sped this up 4 times the normal speed, because who wants to watch paint dry? So like I said, I put the heaviest concentration of the color near the base of each petal, and I'm coming back with clean water to spread that paint on each petal. I started out with this kind of a peachy yellow, not peachy, sunshiny yellow, and then we're going to come back with this peachy orange and use that for the second flower. I wanted there to be 2 different colors, one for each flower, just to help delineate which petals are from which flower. And the smaller flower, of course, takes a whole lot less time to watercolor. I'm using a size 2 round watercolor brush for this. You could use something a little bigger. I just wanted to be able to have the fine detail. Now I'm going to take this watercolor piece that I have cut with the very detailed piece and watercolored, and you can see the other 2 versions there, painted the same way. Now I'm going to line this up with the background die, and it leaves just a nice little margin around our entire design. This will help prevent your little pieces from falling out too. So now I have one of the green detail dies that I cut out. I removed all of the petal pieces, so we just have the outlines and the beautiful greenery. I'm using my Barely Arts Precision Glue here again. Adding first I put the heaviest amount of glue on the leaves and the buds, and then I add just little scattered dots on the outline portions for the petals. And that actually lines up really fast and easy. I'm going to use my heavyweight block to help that. Next, I'm taking out the Mirrored Arch Nested Sprigs. This is another gorgeous BetterPress die plate set, and it does coordinate with some of the mirrored with some other products I'll show you here in just a little bit. I am lining up these different layers of beautiful filigree type fancy detail, and I have it on some polished brass foil on some Hammermill smooth cardstock here. And I foiled that. I'm going to take that negative foil piece, and foil that too. This coordinates with the Mirrored Arch labels, and there are lots of dies in this die set. And I'm going to just use one of the appropriately sized dies to die cut our foiled piece here. You could absolutely do this with the BetterPress also, but I really wanted that little pop of shiny polished brass coming through. And you can see how easy that was to line up, and it does create a lovely backdrop. Now, I did want to check out and see what the reverse foil would look like. I did use the Spellbinders specialty paper to do this foiling because I find that that does the best job, especially with anything that is really solid. I'm going to use the same die to cut that out and do a little test fit here. While that looks good, I think the white with gold looks better. So we're going to adhere that to the card base. I did put a little extra cardstock behind that. And then I'll layer our beautiful Peony spray here. I'm taking some scraps of cardstock to add a little extra height behind this, of course, because I have to have a tower of a card, don't I? It's actually not that thick, but it is a few layers thick, which I think is one of the beautiful things about handmade cards. They have so much more structure, and they look so impressive in person. I'm taking one of the sub-sentiments from that same Let's Celebrate Sentiments BetterPress set, and I'm using the polished brass and some white cardstock. This one says, "Happy Mother's Day to the woman who does it all. I feel blessed to call you mom." And I'm again using the Precision Layering Mini Slimline dies. Again, retired, but just because it's retired doesn't mean you can't use it. We're also going to use the Happy Mother's Day sentiment from that same sentiment set. And I did cut out a couple extra pieces of white cardstock to build the sentiment up as usual. That really adds some impact to the front of your card. Now that I have that all adhered together, it's time to figure out where I want to place this on our card front. I do move it around a little bit, and if I had not centered our main image right in the center, I could have put it below, but I like how putting the sentiment on your main image ties it all together. Next, we're going to take that sub-sentiment and put it on the inside of our card. And that completes our entire card for our second card. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed playing with these products. It was a joy to just play with them, and these cards came together pretty effortlessly. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Be sure to check that description box below for any links to the products that I use. They are always listed and linked there. And leave me a comment. Tell me which of these cards you enjoyed the most. Until next time, here are a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy. Bye-bye.